to your weekly sales supercharge. I want to talk to you today about how to handle failure. And this has been a topic that's been on my mind for a number of reasons. One is at our company, we are stretching and growing so much. And along the way, there are things that happen that can feel like failure. And I'm working with so many clients right now who are going not just for incremental progress, doing more of the same of what they've been doing before, which they already know how to do, but going for that quantum leap, going for, you know, $3,000 months to $10,000 months, going from $10,000 months to $100,000 months. And when we go for that quantum leap, like maybe that's you. So are you going for a quantum leap right now in your sales, in your business, in your life? If that's you, it's going to require that you do things that you've never done before. And when we do those things, there will be moments along the way, and there can be many along the way, where we feel like we're failing because we're trying new things, because doing things differently is required in your journey to your quantum leap. And I had some things happen in this past week for myself on our team where the old version of me would have looked at those as a failure. But now that I've learned the 3 tips I'm going to share with you today, I was able to look back at them and say, that means we're on our way. That means we're getting closer. That means we're growing. And so I want to share with you today 3 things that you can do when you feel like you are failing on your way to your quantum leap. And the first thing to know, and this is something I love, I'm getting certified right now in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. That's a mouthful. But part of what they teach in NLP is that there is no failure. There's only feedback. There is no failure. There's only feedback. And I have a client of mine in the 10K club, and she's been in for, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months or so. And I sensed that over the past few weeks, she was feeling like she was failing. And it's funny because my perspective is very different from hers. It's been probably several decades that she's wanted to launch her own brand. And she was caught up in fear and self-doubt, and would people appreciate her message, blah, blah, blah. And so she decided to just go for it. Like once she joined the 10K club, she decided to go for it. And she decided to run her first webinar, her first masterclass. And she had 76 people register, 28 people show, which is a really good rate, by the way, if you're not doing, a lot of webinars or masterclasses on your own. And she had a client, a paying client out of it. And when I think the expectation that she had put on herself was that she was going to, for this to be a quote unquote success, she would need to sign, 5 clients, 10 clients, 20 clients from that. And she signed her one paying client from this and came to one of our group calls. Kind of, you could tell the energy was a little bit wobbly, like, I maybe like that like Christine Hassler talks about expectation hangover, right? Like I had these expectations and this is what happened. And from my perspective, and this is from studying a lot of very successful people, it was like, oh my gosh, the fact that you did your first webinar, that you just decided to do it and launch it, you had 76 people show up, you had a paying client. Like I did so many things before I ever got a client off of a webinar. I tried so many times. There's plenty of people who are now running multi-million-dollar businesses who had to do 100 webinars. Some of them, I don't remember the name of the woman, but I remember she was brought in to speak at a mastermind I was a part of last year. And she makes millions of dollars off her webinars now, but she had to do 1,000 before she started making money off of them. And so it was that switch, that perspective where I could see my client like, oh, the fact that I even received a paying client off my first webinar is incredible. And then looking at, okay, what's the feedback, right? Because the only way it's not going to work is if you quit. And if you say, well, this is failing, so I'm not going to keep going. So let's celebrate what you did. Let's celebrate that you took action, that you took what may have felt like messy action, but that you did it, because that's how you win. And then let's look at the feedback. So of those other people who registered, who didn't sign up for the program, what was the pitch like to them? What was the feedback? Like, let's just start tweaking. So there is no failure. There's only feedback, but we have to remember that along the journey to the quantum leap. The second thing is to know that it is necessary on your journey to success. It is necessary. It's not going to be perfect. And one of the things that has happened in my life, that happens for the women I coach, is that when you decide to go for that big leap, it's kind of like a declaration to the universe that I'm going for it. Like, I'm not available to play small. I'm not available to stay where I am. And there are circumstances and things in your life that are not going to serve you to get you to where you want to be. And so we have to know that things can feel like they are falling apart before they come back together. I was coaching another client who's going for a $2.5 million year. And it's like, as soon as she made that declaration and decided she was going for it, team members started dropping off. Like, people just started quitting. She had a project she thought was going to come through that didn't. And it was, had she not known how things work, and this is why I'm so big on teaching universal laws to my clients, because when we know how things work, we can have peace and faith and trust in us that everything is always working for us, and that some things just must fall apart before they can come together. It was like, oh, these team members were not the ones who were going to get me to that 2.5 million. So they had to be released to create space for the right team who's going to come in and help us get there. And that can happen. And I've had that happen so many times in my life where I lost a partnership, and I don't use the word lost. I prefer the word like released. I released a partnership that was my bread and butter that actually would have, at the time, I didn't know it, but it would have been the thing that prevented me from launching the She Sells brand and getting to where we are today. When I made a decision before I turned 28 that I was no longer available to be in anxiety and suffering and stress, I ended up getting a divorce. And I felt a lot of shame around that at the time, but that was, things had to fall apart. And then 6 months to the day, I met my soulmate, Jason, who's now my baby daddy of Jack. And so we have to know that when you make that declaration, you are also inviting in help from God, the universe, source, spirit, to release the things that no longer serve you, so that you can then have space for what is, for the people, the opportunities, the clients that are going to be part of your success. And so that must happen. And so it can feel like chaos at the moment. And that's okay. It's kind of like if you walked in the middle of a surgery, it would look like a murder, right? And you'd be like, oh my gosh, what are they doing to this person? They're taking things apart so they can come back together. So that is usually necessary, but that actually means you're on your way. So we want to learn to recognize that for what it is. Like, oh, good, this means I'm on my way. And we have to stay, this is actually the third tip. We must stay focused on the vision. You must stay focused on the vision, because along the way to your quantum leap, it can feel like it can feel like things are falling apart. And if we don't stay focused on the vision of what we're creating, then we can get too focused on external circumstances and decide to throw in the towel. And this is where, again, you must know universal laws and how they work. You must know that an idea held in your head with enough consistent thinking about it and detailed thinking and that emotional attachment to it, it must move into form. It's the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Say that 3 times fast, right? But it must move into form for you. So that's why we have vision boards. That's why we repeat affirmations. That's why we stay focused on the vision, because when that vision is compelling enough and we're living into it every day before it's actually happened for us in our physical world, then we're there. It's like, you're already there. You're unshakable. Things can be falling apart all around you, and you know it's all working for you. So that's why I teach that, because so many people don't know how things actually work. And it's easy to get dejected. It's easy to throw in the towel. It's easy to say this just isn't working, when in fact, everything has actually been shifting for you to come together for you in the most perfect way you could ever imagine. So I wanted to share that with you today, because that is when we can learn to reframe what we think as a failure into the necessary steps towards success. We get to relax, we get to have faith, we get to enjoy the journey, and we get to be excited to see what's happening for us in our sales, our business, and our life, and to be dazzled by how it's all going to come together. So I want to just encourage you in your journey today. If this is speaking to you, you should absolutely join the 10K club if you're not a member yet, because this is what it's all about. It's about knowing, how do things work? How do universal laws work? How does that tie in with our sales, our business, our life so that we can create those quantum leaps, but do it in a way that's fun, that's relaxed, and that's easy. So message me back if you're interested in that. We are enrolling this week. I would love to have you as a part of the program if this is speaking to you. Either way, I'm so glad you watched this. I hope this served you, and I am cheering you on always. All right, I look forward to seeing you next week. Lots of love, and I'll see you soon.